Hello everyone, I will be doing a presentation on speech patterns and communication challenges in autistic students. There are two language deficits, expressive and receptive language disorders. Expressive language disorder is when a child has a challenging time communicating their meaning or messages to others and has a challenging time expressing their thoughts and feelings. For example, I had a student who knew what he wanted to say, and when he communicated it, it came out like gibberish. And so his peers and family back home wouldn't be able to understand him. And then this would always lead to him getting very frustrated and angry that he wasn't able to communicate his feelings. Receptive language disorder is when a child has trouble understanding words that he or she hears and reads. So for example, I was giving a student a reading assessment. He was able to read the words on the page, but then when I asked him questions about the story and what the words meant, he was unable to tell me the answer. Students with deficits in expressive language can face significant challenges in the classroom, especially in social situations. When someone has an expressive language disorder, it makes it hard for them to communicate and express their feelings, and this leads to people not understanding them. I once worked with a student who had a strong receptive language skills. He could understand what I was saying, but had a hard time expressing himself. This communication barrier often leads to someone getting frustrated and angry, and his peers would notice his struggles, and unfortunately this would lead them to distance themselves and not want to spend as much time with them. Receptive language involves understanding what is being said. So when a student struggles in this area, like instructions or engaged in classroom discussions, receptive language difficulties can also affect daily functioning. So for example, there's important words to be able to understand, like restroom or exit or crosswalk. And there's a student who was unable to understand these terms. During a meeting, his mom expressed that this was very important for him to learn so he could be able to kind of navigate some real life scenarios, and so his mom was concerned about his receptive language understanding. There are 5 main speech patterns found in autistic students. The first is cluttering of words. So this is when a student will say a lot, or speak very quickly, or slurring words, or skipping main parts of a sentence. The next is unusual prosody. This is when students have a hard time using expressive language, or using different tones or emphasizing something. So this might lead to kind of confusion or misunderstanding of like social cues. The next is idiosyncratic speech. This is when a student develops like a very strong interest in a specific topic. The fourth is monotonous speech. This is when a child has like a flat effect, so it might sound like a statement because there is no tone in their voice. The fifth is echolalia or repetition. This is when a student might repeat the same question every single day. For example, I had a student who was very obsessed with traffic and directions and using Google Maps, and would ask the same question every day, and even several times the same day about how long did it take for me to get to school, how was the traffic, what gas station I go to, and he would ask that same question every day. Speech patterns found in autistic students affect their communication with peers and their family. Students with ASD might speak in a monotone voice. This can make their speech seem robotic or emotionally flat, making it hard for students to connect with their peers and their teachers. Students with autism have a hard time understanding sarcasm. They have a hard time understanding, tone, and this can lead to frustration and confusion. Students with autism will often repeat themselves. This might seem to teachers or peers that they are confused and are having trouble following along. Autistic students also have a challenging time understanding the balance of conversation and will often dominate the topic, and need to learn how to have like a balanced conversation even if they're passionate about a topic. For example, I had a student who was obsessed with animation movies, and whenever he would talk with a peer or a teacher about animated movies, we needed to teach him about how it's important to, say what you want to say, but then have time to listen to the other person, and it can't just be a one-way conversation. Students have a hard time following instruction, especially if it's like a multi-step direction. They're able to understand kind of the beginning of what I'm saying for the day, but if I keep going, they're going to get lost and frustrated. So being able to understand multi-step directions can be very challenging. Overall, the speech pathologist, kind of what they're supposed to be doing, their job is to treat speech, language, social communication, swallowing disorders. Speech pathologists, they help with students being more expressive. They also work with their families and can maybe provide some instruction or feedback home. And speech pathologists are also a vital part in the IEP meeting. They work and collaborate with families. They also come up with the goals that they would like for the students to be able to work on. Speech pathologists also spend some time in the classroom working with the teachers and working with the paraprofessionals on how to use the students' ACC or communication devices.